The ballroom sparkled like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting warm light across hundreds of people in expensive suits and designer dresses. Champagne glasses clinked together as laughter filled the air. This was the kind of party where donations started at $10,000, and people talked about their vacation homes like it was normal conversation. I adjusted my dress for the third time, feeling like I didn't quite belong. My name is Kiara, and I worked in marketing for a tech company. I'd been invited because my boss couldn't make it, and someone needed to represent our firm at this charity gala. The invitation said black tie, so I'd spent way too much money on a dress I'd probably never wear again. But standing there, surrounded by Manhattan's elite, I was glad I did. The event was raising money for children's hospitals. At least that's what the banner said. Most people seemed more interested in networking and being seen than actually talking about sick kids. I'd learned quickly that these events were more about status than charity. Still, money was being raised, so I tried not to judge too harshly. I was near the bar, waiting to order a sparkling water, when I noticed her. The woman was stunning, with long dark hair and a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She had that confident air about her, the kind that comes from never having to worry about money. I'd seen her earlier talking to a tall man in an expensive suit. People kept coming up to them, shaking hands, laughing at their jokes a little too enthusiastically. They were clearly important. The woman in red glanced around, her eyes scanning the crowd like she was looking for someone. Then I saw her reach into her small handbag and pull something out. It was quick, practiced. If I hadn't been standing at just the right angle, I would have missed it completely. She moved closer to a champagne flute sitting on the bar counter. The bartender was turned away, fixing someone else's drink. In one smooth motion, she tipped her hand over the glass. Something small fell into the golden liquid. She didn't even look down at what she was doing. Her eyes stayed on the crowd, her face calm, like she was just standing there waiting. My heart started beating faster. Did I really just see that? Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe she was just adding something innocent to her own drink. But then she picked up a different glass, one that was clearly marked with a small napkin underneath. The bartender turned back around and smiled at her. "This is for the young lady in the blue dress," the bartender said, nodding toward someone across the room. "Oh, I'll take it to her," the woman in red said smoothly. "We're friends. I'm heading that way anyway." The bartender smiled and handed her the glass. The woman in red walked away, carrying the champagne toward a younger woman standing near the windows. The girl in the blue dress looked maybe 25, with blonde hair pulled back in an elegant twist. She was laughing with a group of people, completely unaware. Every instinct in my body started screaming. Something was very wrong. I didn't know these people. I didn't know their relationships or their history. But I knew what I saw, and I knew that whatever had gone into that drink wasn't supposed to be there. I started walking. My hands were shaking slightly, but I kept moving through the crowd. What was I even going to say? Would anyone believe me? I was nobody here. Just some marketing executive in a borrowed dress. The woman in red clearly had money, power, connections. Who would take my word over hers? But I kept thinking about that glass. About what could happen if I said nothing. About reading articles of people who got hurt because nobody spoke up. About how I'd feel tomorrow if something terrible happened and I'd stood there silent. The woman in red reached the girl in blue and tapped her shoulder. They exchanged smiles. The girl clearly knew her. They started chatting, and the woman in red held out the champagne glass like a gift. I moved faster, my heels clicking against the marble floor. People turned to look at me as I rushed past, probably wondering why someone was practically running at a formal event. I didn't care anymore. "Wait," I called out, a little too loudly. Several people stopped talking and stared at me. "Don't drink that." The girl in blue paused, the glass halfway to her lips. She looked at me confused. "Excuse me?" "Your drink," I said, trying to catch my breath. My voice came out urgent, intense. "Please don't drink it. I think there's something in it." The woman in red's expression changed instantly. Her friendly smile vanished, replaced by shock and then anger. "What are you talking about? Who even are you?" "I saw you," I said, looking directly at her. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "At the bar. I saw you put something in that glass." The conversations around us died completely. People formed a circle, sensing drama. The woman in red laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's insane. I would never. This is my friend. Why would I do something like that? The girl in blue looked between us, still holding the glass. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, she said carefully. But I noticed she didn't drink from it. I know what I saw, I insisted. My voice was steadier now, even though inside I felt like running away. You reached into your bag, you put something in a glass at the bar, and then you specifically asked to deliver this drink. This is ridiculous, the woman in red snapped. Her face was turning pink. You're causing a scene over nothing. This is a respected charity event and you're making wild accusations. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish, but then why not just test the drink? I interrupted. If there's nothing in it, testing it will prove me wrong. The woman in red's eyes flashed with something dark. I don't have to prove anything. The fact that you're even suggesting this is insulting and frankly delusional. Someone needs to remove this woman from the event. She's clearly unstable. People in the crowd murmured. I could feel their eyes on me, judging, weighing whether I was crazy or brave or somewhere in between. A security guard started walking toward us. My stomach dropped. They were going to throw me out. They were going to believe the wealthy, confident woman in the designer dress over me. The girl in blue set the glass down on a nearby table. Maybe we should just... There's no maybe about it, the woman in red said firmly. She turned to the security guard approaching us. This woman is harassing us. She's making up stories and disrupting the event. I want her removed. I'm not making anything up, I said desperately, looking at the security guard. I work for Davidson Tech. I was invited here legitimately. I'm not trying to cause problems. I just saw something that concerned me and I couldn't stay quiet. The security guard looked uncertain. He was young, probably not paid enough to deal with drama at fancy charity events. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to ask her what? A deep voice cut through the tension. Everyone turned. The tall man I'd seen earlier with the woman in red was walking toward us. He was probably in his late 30s, with dark hair starting to gray at the temples and sharp blue eyes that took in the scene quickly. People automatically moved aside to let him through. This was someone important, someone powerful. The woman in red's face transformed. She rushed toward him. Daniel, thank God this woman is making horrible accusations. She's trying to ruin the evening with these paranoid fantasies. I was just bringing a drink to a friend and she started screaming about, I'd like to hear what happened, the man named Daniel said calmly. His voice was quiet but carried weight. From the beginning, and from everyone involved, he looked at me directly. His gaze was intense, measuring. I straightened my shoulders and met his eyes. I was standing near the bar, I said, keeping my voice steady. I saw this woman take something from her bag and put it into a champagne glass. Then she asked the bartender if she could deliver the drink herself to this young lady. I don't know either of them. I don't know what was in that glass, but I knew I couldn't stay quiet if there was even a chance something dangerous was happening. Daniel's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. He looked at the woman in red. Is this true? Of course not, she said immediately. Daniel, you know me. You know I would never do something like that. This woman is clearly looking for attention, or trying to cause trouble. Why would I hurt anyone? This is insane. Then you won't mind if we have the drink tested, Daniel said simply. The woman in red went pale. That's not necessary. This is embarrassing enough already. Let's just forget this happened, and if there's nothing in the drink, then testing it clears everything up. Daniel continued in that same calm tone. And if there is something in it, then we need to know. Either way, we're testing it. He pulled out his phone and made a call. The woman in red looked like she wanted to argue but seemed frozen. The girl in blue stepped back from the glass like it might explode. People in the crowd whispered to each other, phones coming out, probably already texting their friends about the drama. I stood there feeling exposed and strange. Part of me wanted to disappear. Part of me wondered if I just ruined my career over a misunderstanding. But mostly I just kept thinking about that glass and what might have happened if nobody said anything. Daniel ended his call and looked at me. What's your name? Kiara Johnson, I said. I work for Davidson Tech. My boss couldn't make it tonight, so I came to represent our company. He nodded slowly. Thank you for speaking up. That took courage. We don't know if she's right yet, the woman in red said sharply. Everyone's treating her like a hero when she might just be paranoid or vindictive or... We'll know soon enough, Daniel said, cutting her off. His tone was colder now, and I noticed he'd stepped slightly away from her. 2 men in dark suits arrived. Daniel handed them the champagne glass, speaking to them quietly. They nodded and left quickly. The whole ballroom seemed to be watching now. The music had stopped. Even the servers had paused to see what would happen. "This is going to take a few minutes," Daniel announced. "In the meantime, I think everyone should stay calm." But calm was impossible. The woman in red was breathing hard, her hands clenched. The girl in blue looked shaken, probably realizing how close she'd come to drinking whatever was in that glass. And I stood there wondering if I'd just changed everything or destroyed my own life over nothing. The waiting was terrible. Every second felt like an hour. I caught glimpses of people staring at me, pointing, talking behind their hands. Tomorrow I'd probably be all over social media. The woman who caused a scene at the charity gala. The paranoid nobody who accused someone important. Unless I was right. Unless there really was something in that drink. Daniel's phone rang. Everyone went silent. He answered it, listened for a moment, and his face went dark. When he hung up and looked at the woman in red, I knew. I knew before he said anything. "There was a sedative in that drink," Daniel said quietly. "A dangerous amount." The ballroom erupted. People gasped, shouted, pressed closer to hear. The girl in blue made a small sound and grabbed onto a friend for support. Security guards appeared from multiple directions, and the woman in red just stood there, all her confidence draining away, realizing that everything was about to fall apart. The ballroom felt different now. The sparkle and glamour from earlier had been replaced by something heavy and dark. People weren't laughing anymore. They were staring, whispering, recording on their phones. I stood there feeling like I was in a dream, except my racing heart reminded me this was very real. Daniel's voice cut through the noise. "Everyone step back. Give us some space." The woman in red, whose name I'd learned was Vanessa, looked like she'd been slapped. Her face had gone from pink to completely white. "That's impossible," she said, but her voice shook. "There must be some mistake. Maybe the lab got it wrong, or someone else tampered with the drink after I—" She stopped talking, realizing what she'd almost admitted. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "After you what?" he asked quietly. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed. She looked around desperately, like she was searching for an escape route. Security guards had positioned themselves at the exits. There was nowhere to go. The girl in blue, whose name was Riley, had tears running down her face. "You were going to drug me?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "Why? What did I ever do to you?" "I didn't," Vanessa said quickly. "This is all a misunderstanding. Someone's setting me up. Maybe this woman." She pointed at me with a shaking hand. "Maybe she put something in the drink herself and is blaming me." Did anyone think of that? I felt anger flash through me. I was nowhere near that glass except to warn Riley not to drink it. There are probably security cameras that can prove that. Daniel pulled out his phone again. "Actually, there are." He turned to one of the men in dark suits. "Pull up the footage from the bar area. I want to see everything from the last 30 minutes. You're watching me?" Vanessa said, her voice rising. "You have cameras on me?" "I have security at all my public events," Daniel said calmly. "For everyone's protection, including my own." That's when I realized who Daniel was. Daniel Chen, the tech billionaire who'd made his fortune in artificial intelligence and security software. I'd seen his face on magazine covers at the grocery store. He was worth billions, and Vanessa was his girlfriend. I'd just accused a billionaire's girlfriend of attempted drugging. My legs felt weak. What had I gotten myself into? One of the security men brought over a tablet. Daniel took it and started watching the screen. Vanessa tried to look away, but he held the tablet where she could see it too. I watched his face as he viewed whatever the camera had captured. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. "Would you like to explain this?" he asked, turning the tablet toward Vanessa. She glanced at the screen and looked away quickly. "I can explain. It's not what it looks like. Then what is it?" Daniel's voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath. "Because what it looks like is you deliberately putting something into a drink meant for someone else." The crowd pressed closer, everyone trying to see and hear. Riley's friends had surrounded her, holding her up as she cried. One of them, a woman with short black hair, spoke up. "Riley's been getting sick at events lately," she said. "The last 3 parties we went to together, she got dizzy and had to leave early. We thought maybe she had some medical condition or wasn't eating enough." "Oh my God," Riley looked up, realization dawning on her face. "You've been doing this to me before?" Vanessa's composure was cracking. Her hands were trembling, and her carefully styled hair was coming loose. "I barely know you. Why would I?" "You know exactly who she is," another voice called out from the crowd. An older woman in a purple gown stepped forward. "I've seen you watching Riley at every event for months. Ever since she started getting attention from investors. Ever since people started comparing her startup to Daniel's early work." Daniel looked at Riley with surprise. "You're in tech?" Riley nodded, wiping her eyes. "I founded an AI company. We just got our Series A funding last month. Someone wrote an article comparing my approach to your early innovations. I thought it was the proudest moment of my career." Her voice broke. "I didn't know it would make someone want to hurt me." Vanessa laughed, but it sounded wrong. Harsh. "You think this is about you? You think you're that important? Then what is it about?" Daniel asked. He was watching Vanessa like he'd never seen her before, like she was a stranger. "You want to know?" Vanessa's voice had changed. The polished society woman was disappearing, replaced by something raw and angry. "Fine, I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of watching you smile at every young, talented woman who walks into a room. I'm tired of seeing articles about the next big thing and watching you get that look in your eyes." "What look?" Daniel asked carefully. "Interest, respect. The way you used to look at me." Vanessa's voice was rising. "Do you know what it's like? Being with someone like you? Everyone knows I'm not brilliant like you are. I'm not changing the world. I'm just the pretty girlfriend who looks good at events. And every day I see younger, smarter women getting your attention. Women who actually understand what you do. Women like her." She pointed at Riley. The crowd had gone completely silent. Even the servers had stopped moving. "So your solution was to drug her?" Daniel's voice was hard now. "To make her sick? To potentially cause serious harm?" "I just wanted her to leave early," Vanessa said, but she sounded less certain now. "I didn't want to hurt her. I just needed her to look foolish in front of investors, to seem unreliable, so people would stop comparing her to you. There was enough sedative in that drink to put her in the hospital," Daniel said. "The lab said it could have caused respiratory problems. She could have stopped breathing." Vanessa shook her head rapidly. "No, I didn't put that much. Someone must have added more. I only used a little, just enough to make her sleepy and confused." The admission hung in the air. She'd said it, confessed to everyone, and she didn't even seem to realize what she'd done. Riley made a choking sound. "You've poisoned me before. Multiple times. Because you were jealous." "I wasn't jealous of you," Vanessa snapped. "I was protecting my relationship. There's a difference." "There's really not," the woman with short black hair said flatly. Daniel handed the tablet back to his security guard and pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police." "Wait," Vanessa grabbed his arm. "Daniel, please. Don't do this. We can handle this privately. I'll apologize. I'll get help. I'll do whatever you want. But don't involve the police. Think about what this will do to your reputation." "My reputation?" Daniel stared at her. "You drugged someone. Multiple times. You could have killed her. And you're worried about my reputation?" "Our reputation," Vanessa corrected. "If this gets out, the scandal will be everywhere. Your company's stock will drop. Investors will question your judgment for being with someone like me. Every business decision you make will be scrutinized." "Is that what you want?" I watched Daniel's face. For a moment, I thought maybe he'd actually consider it. That's how these things worked in wealthy circles, right? Problems got solved quietly. Money changed hands. People signed agreements. Justice was something that happened to other people, but Daniel just shook his head. "Call 911, he told his security guard. Then he looked at Vanessa. "I don't care about the scandal. I care that someone could have been seriously hurt, and I was too blind to see what was happening right in front of me." Vanessa's face transformed again. The pleading stopped. Now she just looked furious. "You're really going to do this? After 3 years together? After everything I've done for you?" "What have you done for me?" Daniel asked. "Besides apparently poison young women at social events? I made you look good. I attended every boring dinner, every tedious fundraiser. I smiled for photos and made small talk with people I couldn't stand. I played the perfect girlfriend while you built your empire, and this is how you repay me?" "You weren't doing me a favor," Daniel said quietly. "I thought we were partners. I thought you actually wanted to be there." "Partners?" Vanessa laughed bitterly. "How could we be partners? You're a genius billionaire and I'm just arm candy. That's all I ever was to you. Be honest." That's not true, Daniel said, but he sounded uncertain now. I never thought of you that way. Then why did you introduce me? Vanessa demanded. At events, at meetings. You always said this is Vanessa and nothing else. Never this is my girlfriend or this is Vanessa, she runs a successful interior design business. Just this is Vanessa, like I was an accessory you brought along. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. I realized we were watching a relationship explode in real time. But I couldn't feel too sorry for Vanessa. Not when Riley was still crying. Not when I thought about what could have happened. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Vanessa heard them too. Her face changed again, cycling through emotions so fast I could barely track them. Anger, fear, regret, defiance, this is all her fault, she said suddenly, pointing at me. If she hadn't said anything, everything would have been fine. Riley would have just left early. Nobody would have known. We could have all gone on with our lives. Except Riley might have ended up in the hospital, I said. My voice was steady, but inside I was shaking. Or worse. You don't know that, Vanessa shot back. You're not a doctor. You're just some nobody who wanted to play hero. Do you feel good about yourself now? You've destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life, Riley said softly. The moment you decided to hurt someone else. Police officers entered the ballroom. 2 of them, looking slightly overwhelmed by the formal setting and the crowd of wealthy people. Everyone started talking at once, trying to explain what happened. Daniel stepped forward and spoke to them quietly, showing them something on his phone. One officer approached Vanessa. Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions. Vanessa drew herself up, trying to reclaim some dignity. I want my lawyer present before I say anything else. That's your right, the officer said. But we do need you to come with us. As they led her toward the exit, Vanessa turned back to look at Daniel. For just a moment, her face softened. I loved you, she said. I really did. I just didn't know how to compete with your whole world. Daniel didn't respond. He just watched her go, his expression unreadable. When the doors closed behind Vanessa and the police, the ballroom erupted in conversation. Everyone had an opinion, a theory, a piece of gossip to share. I felt completely drained, like I'd run a marathon. Riley approached me slowly. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was holding herself together. Thank you, she said simply. If you hadn't spoken up, her voice caught. I don't even want to think about what could have happened. I'm just glad you're okay, I said. How did you even see it? She asked. Everyone else was just standing around and you noticed. I shrugged. I guess I was in the right place at the right time. Or the wrong place, depending on how you look at it. Riley shook her head. The right place. Definitely the right place. She pulled out her phone. Can I get your contact information? I'd like to thank you properly when this isn't all so crazy. We exchanged numbers. Daniel approached us and Riley tensed slightly. He noticed. I'm sorry, he said to her directly. This should never have happened. If I'd been paying better attention. You didn't put drugs in my drink, Riley interrupted gently. She did. That's not your fault. I brought her into these spaces, Daniel insisted. I gave her access to people. I should have seen the warning signs. Were there warning signs? The woman with short black hair asked. She'd been quiet for a while, but now she looked at Daniel intently. Or did she hide it well? Daniel was quiet for a moment. I don't know anymore. Maybe I saw things and made excuses. Maybe I wanted to believe she was happy. Maybe I was so focused on my work that I didn't pay attention to who she really was. He looked at Riley again. But that doesn't excuse what happened to you. And it doesn't excuse me not noticing. A lot of people didn't notice, Riley pointed out. Only Kiara did. And she doesn't even know any of us. They both looked at me. I felt my face get hot. I just didn't want someone to get hurt. That simple? Daniel asked. That's simple, I confirmed. He studied me for a long moment. Would you be willing to give a statement to the police? And possibly testify if this goes to trial? My stomach dropped. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I guess I have to, right? Legally, yes, Daniel said. But I want to make sure you're protected through the process. Vanessa has family money and connections. She might try to make things difficult for you. I'd like to provide you with legal support if you're comfortable with that. I hesitated. I don't want special treatment. I just did what anyone should have done. But not everyone did it, Riley said softly. Only you. The ballroom was starting to empty. The charity event was clearly over. Staff members were already starting to clean up, though they kept glancing at us nervously. Security guards still stood at the entrances. Daniel's phone rang. He looked at the screen and sighed. The press already knows. This is going to be everywhere by morning. He looked at me. Are you prepared for that? I don't know, I admitted. I've never been in the news before. It won't be easy, he warned. People will have opinions about what you did. Some will call you brave. Others will say you should have handled it differently, more quietly. Social media can be brutal. But Riley is safe, I said. That's what matters, right? Daniel smiled slightly. It was the first time I'd seen him smile all night. Yes, that's what matters. As I finally left the ballroom that night, I kept thinking about Vanessa's words, about how she'd felt invisible next to Daniel's success, about how jealousy had twisted into something dangerous. And I thought about Riley, who'd just been trying to build her own company and had nearly paid a terrible price for it. I'd come to this event thinking it would be boring but necessary for my career. I'd never imagined I'd end up in the middle of something like this. But as I stepped out into the cool night air, I realized something. I'd trusted my instincts even when it was terrifying. I'd spoken up even when everyone else stayed silent, and tomorrow, when my name was all over the news and people I'd never met had opinions about me, I'd still know I'd done the right thing. That would have to be enough. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. It was barely 6 a.m, and I'd only gotten about 3 hours of sleep. My hand fumbled for the phone on my nightstand, and when I finally looked at the screen, my heart dropped. 47 missed calls. Over 200 text messages. My social media notifications had maxed out at 900 plus. Something was very wrong. I opened my messages and saw ones from my mom, my sister, old college friends I hadn't talked to in years, even my dentist. They all said basically the same thing. Are you okay? Is this really you? Call me immediately. Then I saw the news alert. Tech billionaire's girlfriend arrested after woman prevents poisoning at charity gala. My stomach turned over. I clicked on the article and there was my name. Kiara Johnson. And worse, there was a photo of me from last night, looking scared and determined at the same time. Someone had been recording the whole thing. I spent the next hour reading article after article. Some called me a hero. Others questioned why I'd caused such a public scene instead of handling it quietly. One headline read, "Marketing Executive Saves Young Entrepreneur's Life." Another said, "Charity Event Disrupted by Unverified Accusations." But they weren't unverified. The drug test had been positive. Vanessa had confessed in front of hundreds of people. Still, some articles made it sound like maybe I'd overreacted, like maybe I'd been dramatic for attention. The comments were worse. People I'd never met had strong opinions about me. Some praised me. Many criticized everything from my decision to speak up to the dress I'd been wearing. Someone had found my college photos and was sharing them. Another person claimed they'd gone to high school with me and I'd always been a troublemaker. I'd never even met them. This was what Daniel had warned me about. This was what being in the public eye meant. My phone rang again. This time it was my boss, Richard. I answered, my mouth dry. "Kiara," he said, and I couldn't read his tone. "I've been seeing the news." "I'm sorry," I said automatically. "I didn't mean to bring attention to the company. I was just representing us at the event like you asked, and then—" "Sorry?" Richard interrupted. "Why are you apologizing? You potentially saved someone's life. Do you know how many calls I've gotten this morning? Not complaints, congratulations. People want to work with us because of what you did. They're saying we must have good values if we employ someone with that kind of integrity." I sat down on my bed, relief flooding through me. Really? Though I'll admit, when I first saw the headlines at 5 this morning, I was worried. But then I read the full story. "Kiara, you did the right thing. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." After we hung up, I felt a little better. But my phone kept ringing. A reporter from the New York Times wanted an interview. So did CNN, the Washington Post, and about a dozen local news stations. I didn't know what to do, so I didn't answer any of them. Then Daniel called. "How are you holding up?" he asked without preamble. "I'm okay," I lied. "Just a lot of attention I wasn't expecting." "It's going to get worse before it gets better," he said honestly. "Vanessa's lawyers are already trying to control the narrative. They're claiming she made a mistake but didn't intend serious harm. They're also suggesting that you might have had ulterior motives for speaking up." "Ulterior motives? Like what?" "They're implying you might have wanted attention or been looking for a way to meet me since I'm, well, you know." He sounded uncomfortable. "Rich and famous?" I said flatly. That's ridiculous. I didn't even know who you were until last night. I know, but they're going to push that narrative anyway. It's what defense lawyers do. They create doubt. He paused. I meant what I said about legal support. I have a team that can help you navigate this. They can handle the media requests, advise you on what to say and what not to say. I don't want special treatment, I said again. It's not special treatment. It's protection. Vanessa comes from money too. Not as much as me, but enough to make your life difficult if you're not prepared. His voice was firm. Please let me help. You got involved in this because you did the right thing. The least I can do is make sure you don't suffer for it. I thought about the comments I'd been reading, about the reporters calling, about Vanessa's lawyers already trying to paint me as opportunistic. Okay, I said quietly. Thank you. By noon, I was sitting in a law office in downtown Manhattan. Daniel's legal team consisted of 3 lawyers who looked like they'd never lost a case in their lives. They walked me through everything. What to say to reporters, what not to say, how to handle social media, what to expect if the case went to trial. The prosecution will want your testimony, a lawyer named Patricia explained. She was in her 50s with sharp eyes and an efficient manner. You're their key witness. You saw Vanessa put something in the drink and you acted to prevent harm. That's powerful. What about Vanessa's defense? I asked. What will they try to do? Patricia exchanged glances with her colleagues. They'll try to discredit you. They might suggest you didn't actually see what you claim you saw. They might imply you had reasons to lie. They'll dig into your background looking for anything they can use. My stomach tightened. What kind of things? Anything. Past relationships, financial troubles, social media posts from years ago. They'll look for patterns of attention-seeking behavior or dishonesty. She leaned forward. Is there anything in your past that might be a problem? It's better if we know now, I thought hard. I don't think so. I mean, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but nothing that would make me lie about something like this. Good. But be prepared. They might find things you've forgotten about or take things out of context. A joke you made on Twitter 5 years ago could become evidence of your character. This was getting more surreal by the minute, all because I'd stopped someone from drinking a poisoned drink. After the meeting, I went home and did what they'd advised. I made all my social media accounts private. I didn't answer any reporters. I wrote down everything I remembered from that night in as much detail as possible. Then Riley called. I hope it's okay that I'm calling, she said. She sounded tired. I got your number last night and I've been thinking about you all day. It's fine, I said. How are you doing? Honestly? I'm a mess. She laughed, but it sounded shaky. I keep thinking about what could have happened. And then I found out about the other times. The police are investigating 3 other events where I got sick. They think Vanessa drugged me at all of them. That's horrible. The worst part is I blame myself, Riley continued. I thought I wasn't eating enough or sleeping enough. I thought maybe I couldn't handle stress. I almost didn't go to the gala last night because I was worried I'd get sick again and embarrass myself in front of investors. That's what she wanted, I said quietly. She wanted you to seem unreliable. I know. And it was working. I have a big presentation next week to potential partners, and I was considering canceling it because of her. Because she poisoned me and made me doubt myself. Riley's voice hardened. But I'm not canceling. I'm doing that presentation and I'm going to be amazing. You will be, I said, and I meant it. I've been reading the comments about you, Riley said after a moment. People are being awful. I'm so sorry you're going through this because of me. It's not because of you. It's because of what Vanessa did. I was getting tired of feeling like I needed to apologize for doing the right thing. And honestly, let them talk. I know what I saw. I know what I did. That's enough. You're stronger than I am, Riley said softly. I don't think so. You're still standing after being poisoned multiple times. That takes strength too. We talked for a while longer. It was strange becoming friends with someone under these circumstances, but there was a connection there. We'd both been thrown into something neither of us wanted, and we were trying to figure out how to survive it. Over the next few days, more information came out. The police investigation revealed that Vanessa had been buying sedatives illegally online. They found evidence of purchases going back almost a year. She'd been planning this for a long time. They also found a journal. Vanessa had been documenting every woman she perceived as a threat. Riley was just one of many. There were notes about a venture capitalist who'd praised Daniel's business sense, a journalist who'd interviewed him for a magazine, even a barista at a coffee shop Daniel frequented, who Vanessa thought smiled at him too much. The journal was filled with angry, paranoid writings, plans for how to embarrass these women or make them look bad. Most of the plans hadn't been carried out. But Riley had been drugged at least 4 times before the gala, and there were 2 other women who'd gotten mysteriously sick at events Vanessa attended. When the journal details leaked to the press, public opinion shifted. The people who'd been defending Vanessa went quiet. The articles questioning my motives disappeared. Instead, new headlines appeared. Pattern of jealous behavior revealed. Tech billionaire dated dangerous woman for years. Daniel gave a press conference. I watched it from my apartment, still avoiding going out much because of the media attention. He looked tired but composed. I want to address what happened at the charity gala, he said to the cameras. First, I want to thank Kiara Johnson for her courage in speaking up. She prevented a serious tragedy, and I'm grateful she trusted her instincts even when it would have been easier to stay silent. He paused, and I could see the strain on his face. I also want to apologize to Riley Park and the other women who were harmed. I was in a relationship with Vanessa for 3 years. I should have seen the signs. I should have noticed her behavior. The fact that I didn't doesn't excuse what happened, but I want those affected to know that I take responsibility for bringing someone dangerous into their lives. A reporter shouted a question. Did you have any idea what she was capable of? Daniel was quiet for a moment. I knew she struggled with jealousy. I thought it was normal relationship insecurity. I tried to reassure her, to include her more in my work life, but I never imagined she would hurt someone. That's not an excuse. It's just the truth. Will you be testifying against her? Yes, I'll cooperate fully with the prosecution. His jaw tightened. What she did was inexcusable, and I hope justice is served. After the press conference, my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Kiara Johnson? A woman's voice asked. Yes, who's this? My name is Teresa Wu. You don't know me, but I was at an event with Vanessa Chen 6 months ago. I got very sick that night. Ended up in the hospital. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. She paused. I saw the news about what she did. And I think she did it to me too. My heart sank. Did you go to the police? I did. They're investigating. But I wanted to call you because her voice got thick. Because nobody believed me when I said something was wrong. I thought maybe I'd been drugged, but everyone said I was being paranoid. My friends said I just couldn't handle my alcohol. Even the doctors treated me like I was making it up. I'm so sorry, I said. You believed Riley, Teresa continued. You didn't know her, but you believed her enough to speak up. If someone had done that for me, maybe I wouldn't have spent 6 months thinking I was crazy. We talked for almost an hour. She told me about the aftermath of that night. How she'd lost a job opportunity because she'd seemed unstable. How she'd started doubting her own memory and perception. How Vanessa had destroyed her confidence just to eliminate perceived competition. When we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of my apartment and thought about how many lives Vanessa had damaged. Not just the women she'd poisoned, but everyone who doubted themselves or felt crazy because they couldn't explain what had happened to them. And I thought about all the times we see something wrong and stay quiet. Because it's not our business. Because we don't want to make a scene. Because we're worried about being wrong or looking foolish. I'd almost stayed quiet too. I'd almost convinced myself it wasn't my place to say anything. But I hadn't. And now Teresa and Riley and other women knew they weren't crazy. They knew they'd been right to trust their instincts. My phone buzzed with another text from Daniel. The trial date is set for next month. Are you ready? I looked at the message for a long time before responding. Was I ready? To testify in court? To face Vanessa's lawyers? To have every detail of that night examined and questioned? No, I wasn't ready, but I was going to do it anyway. I'm ready, I typed back. Because sometimes doing the right thing isn't about feeling ready. It's about doing it even when you're scared, even when it's hard, even when the whole world is watching and judging your every move. I'd spoken up once at that gala. Now I'd have to speak up again in court, and this time I'd make sure everyone heard me. The courthouse steps were packed with reporters. I sat in the car with Patricia, Daniel's lawyer. watching the crowd through tinted windows. Camera crews had set up on the sidewalk. People held signs, though I couldn't read what they said from this distance. "You don't have to talk to any of them," Patricia reminded me. "We'll go in through the side entrance. Security is already in place." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. This was it. After a month of preparation, today was the day I'd testify against Vanessa Chen. The trial had been going on for 3 days already. I'd watched some of it on the news, though Patricia advised against it. The prosecution had presented the evidence: the poisoned drink, the security footage, the journal full of Vanessa's paranoid thoughts about other women. It all looked damning, but Vanessa's defense team was good, expensive. They'd been trying to paint her as mentally unstable, someone who needed help rather than punishment. They talked about the pressure of dating a billionaire, the impossible standards, the constant comparisons to other women. They almost made her sound sympathetic. Almost. We entered through a back door away from the cameras. Inside, the courthouse was quieter but still tense. People moved through hallways with purpose. Lawyers carried thick folders. Police officers stood at doorways. Everything felt official and intimidating. Riley was already there, sitting on a bench outside the courtroom. She'd testified yesterday. When she saw me, she stood up and gave me a hug. "How did it go?" I asked. "It was hard," she admitted. Her lawyer tried to make it seem like I was exaggerating how sick I got. Like maybe I just had too much to drink or was stressed about work. She shook her head, but I told the truth. "That's all I could do." "That's all any of us can do," I said. Daniel arrived a few minutes later. He looked different than he had at the gala. Older somehow. More worn down. He testified 2 days ago, and from what I'd read, it hadn't been easy. The defense had questioned whether he'd really not known about Vanessa's behavior. They'd implied he was complicit somehow by not paying attention. "Thank you for being here," he said to me. "I know this isn't easy." "None of us should have to be here," I replied. But here we are. A court officer opened the door. "They're ready for you, Ms. Johnson." My legs felt shaky as I walked into the courtroom. It was bigger than I'd expected. The ceiling was high and wooden panels covered the walls. The jury sat in 2 rows on the left side. 12 people who would decide Vanessa's fate. They looked normal, like people you'd see at the grocery store or the gym. The judge sat at the front, elevated above everyone else. She was an older black woman with gray hair and glasses. She looked stern but fair, and there was Vanessa, sitting at the defense table with her lawyers. She was wearing a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back. No makeup, or at least not much. She looked younger without all the glamour from that night. Almost vulnerable, but when our eyes met, there was nothing vulnerable in her gaze. It was pure anger. I was sworn in and took my seat in the witness box. The prosecutor, a man named James Chen, no relation to Daniel or Vanessa, he told me, stood up and smiled reassuringly. "Ms. Johnson, can you tell us what you do for a living?" "I work in marketing for a tech company," I said. My voice sounded strange in the quiet courtroom. "Davidson Technologies. And how did you come to be at the charity gala on the night in question?" I explained about my boss being unable to attend, about how I'd been asked to represent the company. James walked me through the evening step by step, arriving at the venue, the atmosphere, the people. "And at some point during the evening, did something catch your attention?" "Yes, I was near the bar and I saw a woman approach the counter." "Can you identify that woman?" I looked at Vanessa. "Yes, that's her. Vanessa Chen." "What did you observe Ms. Chen doing?" I described what I'd seen. How she'd looked around. How she'd taken something from her purse. How she'd put it into a champagne glass when the bartender wasn't looking. How she'd then asked to deliver that specific drink to Riley. "What made you think something was wrong?" James asked. "The way she did it," I said. "It was secretive, deliberate. She made sure no one was watching. And when she asked to deliver the drink herself, that felt wrong too. Why would someone specifically want to hand deliver a drink unless they had a reason? So what did you do?" I followed her, and when she was about to give the drink to the other woman, I warned her not to drink it. That must have been difficult. Speaking up in front of all those people. It was terrifying, I admitted. I didn't know anyone there. I thought maybe people would think I was crazy. But I kept thinking about what could happen if I didn't say anything. I couldn't live with that. James took me through the rest of the evening. The confrontation, Daniel's decision to test the drink, the discovery of the sedative. Vanessa's reaction when she was caught. Did Ms. Chen ever deny putting something in the drink? James asked. At first, yes. But then she admitted it. She said she only meant to make Riley sleepy and confused. She said it was because she was jealous. Jealous of what? Of Riley's success. Of the attention Riley was getting. Of people comparing Riley to Daniel. I paused. She seemed to think Riley was a threat to her relationship. James nodded and thanked me. Then it was the defense's turn. Vanessa's lawyer was a woman named Christine Howell. She was younger than Patricia, maybe in her late 30s with blonde hair and a sharp suit. She smiled at me, but it didn't reach her eyes. Ms. Johnson, you said you work in marketing, correct? Yes. So you understand publicity? How to get attention for a product or brand. I saw where this was going. I understand marketing, yes. And before the gala, how many people knew who you were? Outside of your company? I don't understand the question. Were you famous? Well known? Did people recognize you on the street? No, but now they do, don't they? After the gala, your name was in every major newspaper. You were on television. Your social media following increased significantly. I didn't want that attention, I said firmly. But you got it anyway. And it helped your career, didn't it? Your boss said publicly that the company received positive attention because of your actions. I didn't do it for my career, I said, feeling my face get hot. I did it because someone was about to drink poison. Alleged poison, Christine corrected. You didn't know for certain what was in that drink when you spoke up, did you? No, but you made an assumption. And that assumption led to a very public scene, a scene that put you at the center of attention. I saw her put something in the drink, I insisted. That wasn't an assumption. You saw something fall into a glass. From a distance. In a crowded ballroom. Is it possible you were mistaken about what you saw?
No, I know what I saw. Christine paced in front of the jury.
Ms. Johnson, had you ever met Daniel Chen before that night? No, but you knew who he was, didn't you? A successful billionaire, someone who could help your career. I didn't know who he was at the gala, I said. Not until afterward. Really? You work in technology marketing and you didn't recognize one of the most famous tech billionaires in the world? I'd seen his face before, but I didn't know him personally. I certainly didn't make up a story about his girlfriend to get his attention, if that's what you're implying. Christine raised her eyebrows. I didn't say that. You did, I realized my mistake. Patricia had warned me about this. Don't get defensive. Don't put words in their mouth. Just answer the questions. Let me ask you this, Christine continued. Did Mr. Chen offer you anything after the gala? Money, legal support, career opportunities? He offered legal support because he was worried about me. Because I was getting harassed online and his lawyers could help. So he did offer you something of value. He offered to help me navigate a difficult situation. That's not the same as... And isn't it true that you've been in regular contact with Mr. Chen since the gala? Phone calls? Meetings? Yes, but only about the case. About testifying. You've grown close, haven't you? You and Mr. Chen and Ms. Park. This incident has created relationships that didn't exist before. I saw what she was doing.